Hello, everybody. My name's
Hello
John.
there. And I'm Mike.
We are the Jedi Archives. We do the after show for all the new Star Wars stuff. Today we're going to do an after show review for the Acolyte Episode 3. What was the title, Mike?
Destiny.
So, first thing I noticed, they got away from that dual title already, which I thought was a cool idea. It'd been really cool to have dual titles all the way through, like maybe call this Destiny / Fate or something like that. But I don't know why it was only the first two. Now they're back away from it. But yeah, Destiny. So we'll see how the rest of the titles go. But definitely a captivating title. So, what are your thoughts of this episode, Mike?
So it started with a flashback, which we kind of expected because we had those previews with young Indara and also young Soul with the short hair. So this was only 16 years prior to the first two episodes. And the first thing that stuck out to me, well, this is what was jarring for me, is seeing Master Torben, how young he looked 16 years ago.
That's why his beard looked so bad before. I was like, God, why is it so bad? It's because they took someone really young and made him look older. So it makes a lot more sense now.
But I think they overaged him for 16 years. I mean, he looked really bad.
Think of it 16 years and being kind of unkept in a bubble.
Well, yeah,
on a dirty planet, yeah.
He was just a Padawan.
I mean, what was it? Wasn't the joke about what Tatooine does to people? Remember Obi-Wan was like 10 years later, he's like just this ancient guy
in the desert with two sons beating down. That made more sense.
Well, we'll just chalk it up to that. But
this guy was just sleeping inside a temple, no sunlight, so he should have looked really young. But anyway, I thought that was kind of like he's okay. That's fine.
It was dry air.
Yeah. So
he's a baby looking. He looks like he's 15, 16 years old. He's probably like a 20-year-old in real life, but I don't know what they're trying to make him look like.
He's older because he was in Game of Thrones. So, he was the youngest son who committed suicide in Game of Thrones.
I think he was supposed to be like 16 in Game of Thrones. So yeah, maybe let's say you don't want a 25-year-old Padawan. So Padawan's supposed to be like
teens. They would go into their 20s. No, they would go into their 20s.
I would say low 20s. I was saying like 21, 22. I would say 25's got to be the cap. I mean, that's got to be.
Remember, all the ones that got knighted in their teens were like the youngest ever knighted.
Yeah.
So they typically would go into like their young adulthood age before they were knighted. So, yeah. So it opened up on Brendok, which is cool because we get to see where May and Osha are from. And it opens up and we see the Bunta tree, which is pretty cool.
They spell Bunta different, I noticed.
Bunta.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's the same term they have in Stars already. Bootnta.
And we talked about that too, how they're recycling the same names over and over, like Indara, Indira,
Yeah.
So, anyways, here's another one, Bunta tree. Now, I did like that this tree, because Jonathan, you and I just did the horticulture tour at Disneyland. And we learned that the little yellow flowers are what make the fuzz in the fuzzy tauntaun.
Yeah.
The Sichuan tree. So that was pretty cool. So it kind of reminded me of that because it's all yellow. So
trees, right? Another thinking about it, yeah. There's definitely more flowers, but it just could be a different time of the year. But yeah, it's pretty much little tiny yellow flowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these were just leaves, though, all yellow, and that was cool to see the Bunta tree. It reminded me of like the tree of life.
Bunta's poisonous, so when we drink a fuzzy tauntaun, they're putting a little bit of poison in her drink just to mess with us.
Now, remember what she said at the beginning when she first saw the poison? She goes, "When it's diluted, it'll just like numb you, fall asleep. But if in its pure form, it's deadly. So if they were diluted, then it would just like not kill you. So maybe we diluted Bunta."
I know this is a little off, but that'd be great if they added that to actually Olga's. Like say that on the title. Bunta flowers. Yeah, I think that'd be so. I know that people that like couldn't read in Star Wars Disneyland because of that. So it'd be so cool if they would do that, but people would flip out. But
maybe in my head I'll do it.
Yeah.
So now when I talk to people, I'll tell them.
We'll just tell people that.
Yeah. So it opens up with May and Osha. They're both force sensitive, and it seems like that of the two of them, May seems to be a little bit stronger and more aggressive. That's the impression I got right off the bat. Because we see it opens up with Osha underneath the tree, just kind of relaxing, and this little like moth comes over to her, looks like a hummingbird, and
Oh
she
yeah,
lands on her finger, and then she holds
yeah.
it with her hand in a claw, but then she lets it go. But then her sister May shows up, and she like gets it with both hands and is crushing it. And I think she's gonna kill it if it hadn't been for Osha telling her to let it go, right? And she gets really upset. Um, and
She was,
it's
yeah, she was like dominating over it. Osha was more
right,
like connecting with it,
right,
and then May's just dominating. So there's
yeah.
definitely a difference. You can tell.
hmm And Osha's feeling a little bit upset because it's the morning of their ascension, right? So we hear about that, and so May's excited about it because she wants to go through the ascension. She goes, it's just a ceremony, no big deal. But then Osha's kind of bothered by it. She doesn't want to go through the ascension. She doesn't want to become a witch. Um, so it's pretty interesting. Uh, And so then they're outside, and then Mother Coral comes and she tells them, "Hey, what are you doing out here? It's not safe. You need to stay inside the fortress." And she brings them back, and that's when we notice somebody's been spying on them, right? And it's Master Soul hiding behind a tree. So he's been watching the girls, which is kind of creepy, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what they're there for in the first place, though, making sure
Yeah,
they're not teaching children or anything. So, well, we'll get
right.
to that. But yeah, but that's kind of why they're there. They want to
hmm
have a little evidence before they accuse someone.
Anything else you noticed about that opening scene, Jonathan, that you'd like to
It
mention?
kind of reminded me of some of those the video game sequences. Do you remember any of those? There's ones where this mom's like training her daughter, and she's really strong with the force, and they end up taking her. It kind of reminded me of that scene where you see that it's like almost like a garden type thing. I know
hmm
it's kind of a deep cut, but not too many people seen it. It's the video game sequence for
Also, you know what? I got kind of
Old
like
Republic.
vibes, kind of like Black Spire Outpost vibes because there were ruins there. Did you notice all the ruins in the background?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
I was
so I noticed a
focusing
lot.
there.
There were lots of ruins in the forest and ruins around the Bunta tree of like an ancient civilization, and that's something that's common. Like when you go to Galaxy's Edge on Black Spire, they'll tell you, "Oh, these are from the ancients." Like the cave that you go through, it's the ancients built it. We don't know how long it's been
Yeah.
there. So there's always like an ancient civilization, and then the current people there. So similar to that, I noticed that, and I started paying attention to the details in the background, and there were lots of ruins. I'm like, oh, that's pretty
I'll
cool.
have to rewatch that. I didn't like that. I
Mhm.
did want to say though, I think Soul looked pretty good. They made him the de-aged him pretty
Only the
well.
ancient. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
He
you
did
can
look
tell it
young.
was digitally, but they did a pretty good job on making it look clean.
hmm
So,
I
I mean, if
agree.
we would have saw him first, it would have looked clean, perfect. It's a little like, oh yeah, that's him, but you can tell he's de-aged. But I
Right.
thought it was pretty good. So,
It was much better than the aging of Master Torben.
yeah,
Oh, one thing, did you notice that when the twins were there, the girls, Osha and May, neither of them had any tattoos? And remember, I told you only May had the tattoo, the
yeah.
spiral?
I kind of almost as soon as we kind of realized there's two of them, like as children like that. That's what I'm thinking. I'm almost thinking like she gets this from what happens in this episode. I didn't know it's from Ascension. Maybe I thought it was because she did
Right,
something else and they branded her. But I figured like that's how they're going to tell them apart.
right, right. So, well, what ends up happening is it's the Ascension Day, and they go back, and we find out that their mother, Coral, selected them from the forest, and Coral is a Zabrak female, which is pretty cool because that's the same species that Darth Maul is. So it was pretty cool to see that connection there. That we have a Zabrak female.
Well, it's really cool because it's aliens that we see. Obviously, Darth Maul, but that alien is super common in like animation and video
Right.
games, so you don't really see it too often. You don't see it all in the original trilogy, and I don't think you see it in the sequel at all either. So, but
Not
it's
really.
very common in a lot of comics, video games, animation. It's very common, so it's pretty cool to get that. So I enjoyed seeing that alien.
Yeah, and then when she brings them back into the village, into the the structure, which is like the fortress. Um, as they were approaching the fortress, you could see from the outside they were coming in. There were these like long, tall columns, and they had two like copper inside, and there were two lines that were intersecting. Did you see that? There were two parallel lines, and then they would like swivel and cross and intersect, going all the way to the top. And I
No,
thought that's
really.
pretty cool because it's like the duality of the like the. I kept thinking of the diet and the force, right? Because they're parallel, but then at certain points it would cross and intersect. And then it would be parallel, then cross and intersect. So
Hmm.
that was pretty cool. Um, and we learned that they have when they get into the village, we realize it's all female. So
Which Star Wars has done before. I mean,
mhm. Like the
on
witches,
the Dathomir,
Dathomir witches are all female.
there's three, I don't know, tribes there that are all one gender. You got all the male Zabraks, uh, and then you got the witches, and then you have the mountain witches, the mountain tribe. What are they called?
The mountain tribe.
And those are all female too. So
Right.
it's definitely not unheard of in Star Wars to have
Right.
one gender.
And it reminded me of Themyscira or Paradise Island.
Oh yeah,
It was right. It was
Themyscira.
all
Yeah.
females, and then we had Diana, who was a child among all the women, right? Which is pretty interesting. And because remember, Diana from Wonder Woman, she was actually very special because uh, she was an Eternal, and she's a daughter of Zeus. So, and they also made reference to how the twins were
Well,
also very special.
well, actually, I don't know if you're referring to how she was made out of dirt. Her
Right,
mother went down and made a duck doll out of on the beach, and then Zeus breathed life into her. So
right.
that is kind of blew my mind because yeah, I mean we'll get to it later, but hopefully we'll get to it in the show. But it was a line she says they can't find out how they were made. So I'm just like to me I'm like
Well, but
hmm.
mother, what's her name? Anasera, or what's her name? The other mother, Anastasia. Mother Anastasia says that because Mother Coral says that she carried them, and
Yeah,
Mother Anastasia says, "Yeah, but I created them."
yeah.
And
So
then
it
Mother
could be
Coral tells her, "Yeah, but what if they find out how you did it?
yeah. So it
Right?
could
Like
be
it might be a problem."
obviously she didn't make him out of dirt, but it could be very like Anakin like just out of the forest. So it's pretty cool.
Right?
So
Because we know from the comics that there's that one scene where Palpatine is using the Force to create Anakin inside of Shmi.
yeah,
So that's pretty cool.
yeah.
And
My I don't know if you want to talk about more of this later when we get there or at the end,
bring
but
it up.
my one thing about that is they're dead. So how are we going to find out? We're going to have another flashback? A
Who's
flashback
dead?
before? The all the mother, all the tribe, the coven. So how are we
Oh,
going to
right.
actually find out the
Well,
truth?
well, are they dead? Are they dead?
So I guess we could have another flashback. I guess they could be alive and old, and they show up now. I just if they actually are dead, uh, how are we going to find out? That's kind of one thing. They kind of
They
yeah.
didn't look charged. When when
Well,
Soul
yeah,
walked
we'll
through.
get yeah. That was one of my final thoughts. Something we need to discuss about, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, they might not be dead. They might just be like maybe that needed to happen for the girls to think that they were all dead to get them started on the path of like hatred or sadness down the
yeah,
path of the dark side, right?
yeah,
Uh, because May thought that Osha was dead for all those 16 years.
yeah,
Remember, she goes back to the trees because she always knew that whenever she wanted to find her, she would always go there. So she shows up at the end of the episode. She goes to the tree, the Bunta tree, and Osha's not there. So then she's all, got soot on her face, and she feels like, oh, she must be dead then. So May thinks that she's dead, and that fueled her rage, and what started her on that dark path, I believe. Um, yeah, it was pretty cool.
yeah,
Um, so going back before that happens, that disaster, I'll call it the great disaster in Acolyte. They start having the Mother Anastasia starts having like a session, and she brings the kids and all. She's training them, and she talks about how the thread connects all living things. And so we've heard that before of all living things being connected through the Force. So it seems like they're referring to the Force as the thread. And when she pulls her hands apart, you can see like a thread of energy forming between her fingers, right? Remember seeing that?
Yeah.
And we've heard about the thread in Ahsoka with the witches, how they remember the three witches, the Stygian witches from Greek mythology, Clotho who spins the thread of fate, and then Lachesis who dispenses it, and then Atropos who cuts it, and that's when that person dies, the exact moment of their death. And so we had those three witches in Ahsoka who were talking about the threads as well, and spinning the threads and knowing about all that. So I thought it was pretty cool that it's just another way to talk about the Force
It's
and
just another way it interprets the Force. Like
right
we've
to
said it
interpret it.
before, especially with all the High Republic comics. There's no magic. It's just a
Right,
different way of using the Force.
right, right.
And I have a note on that when we talk about the Jedi. So
Mhm.
yeah, when we get there, I'll talk about that.
Also, that tells us that this witches coven is not like it's not the same as the witches from Dathomir because they're whenever they do the magic with a K, it's always green. They also have like a green hue. So Marin does it in the games, in the animations. You always see like a green. There's always like a green glow. But when these witches do it, it's just like you just see like a sometimes like
Well,
purplish light. Like when she grabs it at the ceremony, and because it's the alignment of the moons, which now I know that that's what this is. The O's in Acolyte are when the two moons get into perfect alignment. It looks just like this.
oh, does it?
Yeah, did you
Okay.
catch that? I saw it. I'm like, that's where they got it from. So they're waiting for the moons to get into perfect alignment because you can see how they're getting closer together, and they make like this lunar eclipse like this, and that's when she does the ceremony, the ascension, and she completes the ascension with May, and that's when she gets that spiral like tattoo on her forehead.
That you
But when she's
see a lot in the place in Ahsoka that where they were that teleport area. They had that same kind of artwork all over the
the
place. So
spirals, yes,
yeah,
you're
so it's
right.
very interesting.
hmm But when she's about to do it to Osha, they're interrupted by the Jedi who have broken a bridge or something and come in, and they're all like, "Oh my gosh, they're coming in! What do we do?" And they all get ready with their bows and arrows, right? All the women, and
Which is
then
very like the other tribe too. They use bows and arrows a lot too.
like the
Death of
witches, Dathomir
Dathomir
witches,
sisters.
right?
Yeah.
Very similar, Dathomir sisters. But she tells them, mother, and Isaiah tells them, no violence. No, I'll take care of it. And she tells the children to hide, right? And they're not very good listeners, those kids,
Mm-hmm.
especially Osha. Um,
I mean,
so
most kids that the Jedi walk in, Jedi are mythical, and one of them's a Wookiee. They're gonna want to peek.
oh
Yeah, they're not
yeah,
gonna be either. I'm not gonna look. And then the Jedi, there's masters there. They can. What are you guys all doing? Nothing.
oh really? And plus they're lying,
Really?
so they
They all
know.
just lined up. Yeah, they know something's going on right now. Just here's
Yeah,
hanging out.
there's no children here. Oh really? What are those? And
Yeah,
Osha comes out.
yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. Um, so she didn't actually. Ocean never completed her ascension. Only May did. So I think that's how they have the mark on May, but not on Osha. Um,
Which, what do you think the ascension is?
I think the ascension was because remember when she's talking throughout that whole ceremony, Mother Aniseya, she's saying that all the secrets, everything about their whole, because they've been persecuted and they've been in hiding all this time. So it sounded to me like when they had the Sith Wars, which is thousands and thousands of years ago, uh, when the Jedi defeated the Sith, they didn't want anyone else that was dark sided to survive, so they wanted to wipe them all out as a result of that Sith Wars. But they went into hiding because she even mentioned how she knew that choosing this planet, they'd be able to hide there in the dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue going on, and so she feels like when she passes all those teachings onto the girls, they will take on all of her knowledge. So almost like what Sidious wanted to do to transfer his essence into Ray, or remember when he wanted to transfer himself into Ray in the Rise of Skywalker? So
Yeah.
it's something like that. And
So
speaking of
you
Rise of Skywalker, remember when he said that they were a Force dyad, and that was something he hadn't seen in generations. So maybe this is the Force dyad generation, the generations ago that he was referring to, because Osha
so
and May are a Force dyad for sure.
there's a chance they're clones, but we'll find out. But uh,
Clones, but
so
see,
you're saying when they
Mother Coral said
ascend,
she carried them, though. Mother Coral said she carried them
they could have
inside their
made.
womb.
I mean, they obviously have the same technology to make clones, but I'm saying they're identical. It's the only reason I think they could be clones. But so you're saying when they ascend and get the marking, they're becoming potential or eventual
Mothers of the
vessels.
tribe. Hmm.
So nothing's actually happened to them at that point, except they're becoming
Right.
eventual. Okay, so then
So
they
she tells
become
them. She tells them at the moment of my death.
yeah.
So I think at
So
the moment of her death, she would transfer her essence into them.
okay, all right, that makes sense.
Maybe,
I was
maybe.
kind of like, are they unlocking more powers? Are they unlocking knowledge? I was like, I don't really know what happened except the tattoo got put on their head. But if you
Well,
turn them into
she's been teaching them though, and we saw some of
yeah,
the teaching.
yeah. But what did the ascension do? Like usually in stories, books, movies, ascension is something's happening to that person, and they're either getting a new title, or they're becoming powerful. They're gaining power. So
Hmm.
this ascension means they became eventual. Well, they actually became capable of being a vessel. So okay, that
Right,
makes sense. I was
right.
just kind of confused with what the thing was.
Now,
So
remember also in the ceremony how she says that when they were being persecuted, they were almost extinct because there was no way for them to procreate, and then they were able to. The miracle of life came, which
oh
was
yeah,
the
they said
twins.
we were given a gift of
They were given the
life.
gift of life, which is the
Yeah.
girls, because otherwise, even the girls said there are no children here.
Oh yeah.
So, and you know what? It makes sense that the girls that OSHA would want to see because they've never been off that planet. They've never seen anything. They've only heard of these things. So she's very curious to see, like,
Yeah.
oh, I've never seen other beings from other planets, or even the space, the transportation vessel, the spaceships. They're like, wow, what's
Yeah.
this? The speeder bike. So yeah, it's very tantalizing for them. Um,
So I want to talk about the Jedi here. Because the Jedi pretty much say to them, you can't train children.
right. Because the
And
law says you cannot train children.
it's very interesting because it's just like, wow, that's very restrictive of the Jedi. You're going to a tribe culture, even saying you can't train children. So I could see how this would upset a lot of viewers. Like, what right do the Jedi have? So it's very interesting.
Well, I
Uh,
think it comes from a place of safety and security. Like, if you don't
that's
know what you're doing, you might set them down the wrong path.
that's exactly what I was going to say. I was
Yeah.
almost my point was to defend it, kind of.
Right.
The Jedi probably you think of it as almost like a weapon. Would you give children guns? So
I
it's the
mean,
same
some
thing
people
with
do. Some
the
people
same thing.
do.
Think of it as the government. Like if I have a kid, should I let my kid play with guns? But the government says no. They need to be. Was it 25 to have a gun? Something like that. I don't know the law,
Well,
but
no,
I
you
think
can be a child and have a BB gun. So there's certain. You start a certain. You
it's
can
yeah.
start
But
with.
yeah, but I'm talking about an actual rifle, a gun. Yeah, so
Right. Right.
firearm. So say that's where the Jedi I think are coming in. It's like they can't.
Hmm.
It's too dangerous. So definitely, it seems very restrictive, but I kind of get from their point of view,
Right.
and because they've seen this, the Jedi have been around for millenniums. I don't know how to say multiple millenniums, but they've been around for a long time.
Millennia.
Millennias, if you say
Millennia,
multiples,
just with an A. Millennia.
how do you do millennias multiples?
Yeah, millennium is one. Millennia for
Okay,
millennia.
okay. For millennia. Okay, so yeah, they've been around, so they've seen this like play in and out. And I still subscribe. It's not just Jedi and Sith, but there is light side and dark side. I still subscribe to that. If you're not really strict on what you do and set certain rules on yourself, you will tap into the dark side. There's no I can control myself and be in that gray area all the time. That's why I'm like, eventually, maybe today you're being okay, but eventually, if you have connections with people and what's the word? I guess passion for people, care for people, attachments. And if they break, you will dip into the dark side. You may be able to pull yourself out, but you will dip into the dark side. And any dipping into the dark side, I'm sure, is the Jedi are really fair.
That's what the Jedi believe at this point. I agree with you. But remember, that was the whole point about Yoda telling Obi-Wan that maybe they were wrong. Maybe the boy needs connections. That's why they sent Luke to live with his family and Leia to be raised in a family as well. Because it didn't work what they were doing.
Well, I think it did. I think that's what I think. If
it didn't, because
for millennia, it worked. I mean, something works for several thousands. You can't say for a while when several thousands of years it worked. It only didn't work when the Emperor Palpatine, the greatest Sith ever, came along and manipulated the situation. That's the only time it didn't work. But the rest, setting those high standards.
In the High Republic, they had connections. Remember all the sex that they were having, Stellan and.
Well, no, you could do that. You could, especially, people do it all the time today. You do that and not have connections. You could do that and not have connections. So
in the High Republic, they were, and then they went away from that. Something happened.
Well, that's the other thing. I think this might be more recent. You're saying they might have made that rule a long time ago with the not letting them train children. I think this might be recent because in the High Republic, there's a lot of other Force users, a lot of other types of training. Right. So I think, but they can train children, but why all of a sudden they can't? So I think this coven did something bad the last 50 years or whatever. And that's why they have a pretty good population of adult women, because they're probably all 50 years around there. I think they did something recently pretty bad that, I don't know, maybe we'll find out. But I think they crossed the line, and that's why this certain group got restrictions and got exiled or whatever. Maybe they didn't get exiled. Maybe they exiled themselves.
They were exiled. You're right. They were exiled.
So I think...
But you know what? When the canon novel by Ken Liu released in 2017, Star Wars, The Legends of Luke Skywalker, from Journey to Star Wars, The Last Jedi. So it's called Legends of Luke, but it's actually a canon book. And in that book, it talks about how Luke travels the galaxy, learning about all the different cultures and how they all interpret the Force. And that the Jedi and the Sith are not the only ones who commune with the Force. There's other ones like the Night Sister with their magic, the Bendu, the Mortis gods. But he also goes to different planets, and he learns how... There's one, for example, that they use the Force to hold their breath to go hunting underwater. And so they're like, well, if you want to join our tribe, whatever we are, you have to catch this type of fish, right? And you have to do it without using anything but the Force. But they call it the wave something. So in that novel, it opens up that there's more than just the light and the dark side, because the Bendu definitely use both. The Bendu's in the middle, remember? He says it himself. We're the Bendu. We're neither light nor dark. We're in the middle. So you're not just either one or the other. You can be in between and straddle.
Well, the Bendu, I don't know. I think do we know more information on the Bendu? I think the Bendu is still some kind of manifestation of the Force.
No, I don't think they're Force users too.
I don't think you think they're a race.
I think so. Just like the Night Sisters.
Yeah, I need to know more about the Bendu, because that's definitely a unique situation. The Bendu. Mm-hmm. So until we see more, to me, it's almost like some kind of manifestation. Because you only see one, and it's very omnipotent in that area. Remember, he pops in and out, disappears. Like it's
yeah.
He's very interesting character. But like when we see cultures, they have their own. Obviously they have their own unique set of rules. Only male, only female, and stuff like that. So definitely unique set of cultures. But I definitely think there's a lot of danger using the Force without setting high restrictions on yourself. Because I think I'm a good guy. I don't think I would ever hurt anyone or do anything bad. If I can use the Force and then someone I knew got hurt, I would lash out. and so that would be me stepping into the dark side. So I think
Mhm.
it's very, very dangerous to use the Force without proper
Proper
set of rules.
training.
And
Mhm.
I'm like people like the Mountain Tribe. I
Mhm.
think they have a very strict set of rules too, because you could tell like she was very passive, very passive. And so I think, I mean, it doesn't have to be Jedi rules, but I think you have to have really monitor your aggression and stuff like that, your passions. So
And you don't think Mother Anisea was passive? She was telling them no violence, and she even agreed, okay, we'll let them go. She was giving the girls choices. She was passive. She wasn't being a
well, that move where she uh, incapacitates Torvin, that was a little scary right there. That to me is like she's dipping a little to the
She
dark
didn't
side.
hurt him though. She didn't hurt him.
She didn't, but it was definitely done out of anger, or like it was a threat.
I think it was
So
out of
yeah,
fear, but
yeah,
yes.
yeah. But maybe she's very. I mean, I definitely, I think they are existing fine because some of them, like the main mother, was very, very like passive, and like she understanding that there's a line there, but. The other mother, you can tell, was a little.
Mother
We should
Coral.
attack him. We should attack him now, like that. So yeah, and
She said,
but
"There's only 4 of them. Who would miss them?"
but as you
Well,
can hear, the other women in the tribe, they were very passive too. Like, no, no, we shouldn't do that. So they are probably preaching a very passive way of living.
right. Those were her
Just
advisors, right? That's how
yeah,
she met with her
yeah,
advisors.
yeah.
And then they had that old woman advisor too.
Very
Very
Maz,
Yoda-ish, right?
Maz Katan looking ish.
She was
She had
kind
that
of. She
really
reminded me a
weird.
lot of. She spoke like
Yeah,
Yoda. She goes, So if they pass, they take them. So if we want them to stay, like suggesting, So,
yeah.
but I think that what I think that in this case, they were trying to stay out of the Republic. They were not in Republic space. They're on this island, on this not island planet, and the Jedi showed up there and found them,
So,
and they just
so
wanted to be left alone.
I think that tribe did something just like in history. I think it was Germany was not allowed to have a military after the 40s. You remember that? So
Well, Japan to this date cannot.
oh yeah, so there's countries that got restrictions on that. So I think I think something happened more recently with this
Yeah.
tribe. They never tell us the type of tribe, do they? So I think
No,
they
they don't
crossed
say. They
they
don't say.
crossed the line somewhere or something.
Well, I
And I
know
think
they weren't allowed to have children. That's for sure.
yes, so I think they crossed the line somewhere, and that's why the Republic says they can't
Hmm.
do it. So that's kind of. I wish we had more information. I mean, we're kind of just
Well, I think we'll get
speculating.
more. I think we'll get more
Yeah,
because there's only 3 episodes in. So,
yeah. So
but I'm
we'll
still
see.
intrigued. I'm still intrigued a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. I hope
Um,
they give us more too. If they don't, that's kind of my like little worries. Like I want to know how the girls were made, and I want to know more about their tribe. Like, what's the name of the tribe? They never even tell us the name, right?
they don't say no. They
Yeah.
just say it's a covenant
So
that and that they
well,
are witches.
we always have the Dathomir witches. We can refer to that. So what are we going to do in the future? The tribe that May's from, they got to give us a name. So I think that'd help a lot.
I think it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. The other
The
thing I want to mention too
Dual
is
Moons tribe or something like
you know
that.
how they
Yeah.
mentioned that we talked about Paradise Island and you
Yeah.
said that she was formed from dirt, but actually they were twins because she has a twin brother Jason, but she sent him away because males were not allowed in Themyscira.
What is that? I never heard that.
Yeah, Jason, and Diana meets him later already as an adult, and then they have another sibling, but whose father is not Zeus. His father is Darkseid. That's the third from the DC comics. So so Diana and Jason are twins, and then when they try to recruit him to fight against Diana, he refuses because he will never go against his sister.
Hmm.
So that's just But you're right about there not being any males. That was a male
Yeah.
born on Paradise Island, but the mother knew he couldn't be there, so she pretended he was never born and sent him off to be raised somewhere else. But so when they do the ascension, we got to hear their full names. So it's May Ho Anisea, and Osha's name is Varosha Anisea. So I thought
Yeah,
that was
there's definitely a more elaborate name
like
instead
a
of just
formal name, formal.
May and Osha. Yeah,
Meho and Varosha. And then we do learn that Mother Anisea has been instructing the twins in the ways of the Force. And again, when she does that force push about against one, she knocks her over easily, and then against two, and it's not as easy. And then when she says, "Prepare yourself," to the girls, who gets out in front to fight back? It's only May. Osha hides behind her sister, so that also gave me an inkling that May must be a little bit stronger in the Force than Osha.
yeah. What was the chant they're doing? Power of one, power of two, the power of all, or something like that.
Power of many. Hmm.
That was a weird chant.
Well, it's kind of like the Borg, that it's they do things not for the one but for the many. So it seemed like a very communal coven.
Oh yeah, I get that. Just the chant itself was a little odd. It was a
Hmm.
little AI-ish. Kind of a fun, not the best writing, but it
Uh,
sounds very like the old television show Charmed, the power of three, power of one, or whatever.
I like Charmed.
Sounds very like that. It's just odd that they're saying two. Really, I can see power of one, the power of many, something like that. Like the
Well, power of one,
ways of
power of
the
two, power of many. They kept going from one to two to
yeah,
many. One to two
yeah.
to many.
Well, I was like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of like I think they were only doing the two because the writer said the two sisters. So
Because of
it's a
twins.
little chunky as a chant, but I know why she did it, to focus on the two because it's twins. But I think they, as a tribe, they would have focused on the two themselves. So that was a little chunky writing, but
A little clunky,
so
yeah. But
yeah.
so that pretty much brings up all the things that I had in my notes of my bullet points. Anything else you wanted to bring up?
Oh, so yeah, we're going to bring up several things. Um, what was the facility they're in? If they're this coven that's trying to be excluded, why aren't they in like an actual like village or something? Why are they in this mechanical power plant
It's
that
a
catches
fortress. Hmm.
that catches fire like the way it did? That was very interesting. Like to me, I think we should have explained what that facility was because she's looking around. You see all this machinery and stuff. Like, what
Hmm.
is this? Like, this is kind of interesting. And not like what you would expect a coven to be in, like a village or maybe a cave or something. It was very interesting. Yeah, I kind of want to know more about that. I don't know if we'll get more. I don't know, but to me that was just very interesting. And then, so my big one was, I think this is going. I was really lost. I was really almost like this doesn't make any sense. Then I talked it out online with some people, and they kind of pointed me in the right direction. Why would I think you might have mentioned it earlier? Why would Torben kill himself over this? I'm like, he's probably sleeping at his tent or the ship, and then the place burns. I'm like, why would he kill himself? I'm like this just seems a huge plot hole in my mind. I was really messed up. But somebody said
Well, it's not over yet.
that this might just be a point of view. This might be Osha's point of view. Because that was the other thing. When she walked into that room and they were all just laying there, I'm hoping it's for a reason. Because that was, I don't know if you want to call it choreography, what? It's very odd. They were all just kind of laying there, kind of almost next to each other. There's no fire in the room. There might have been an explosion, but it wasn't like shrapnel and blood everywhere and body parts. It was so odd how they were all laying there. So I'm just like, that's just so awkward the way they were laying there. So I'm hoping there is something else. So I'm thinking that's one point of view was Osha's point of view, kind of saying like, is all her sister's fault. She blames her sister still to this day. She killed everyone.
Well, they both blame each other because May thinks it's Osha's fault that all of this had to happen. Because if Osha had just faked the test, none of this would ever have happened. And May told her, they're not going to take you. I'll kill you. I'll kill them. It won't happen. So
well, that's obviously that's May deflecting.
But that's her point of view, right? From May's point of view.
Well, May's point of view, she set the place on fire, but she said she had to do that because the Jedi were there. That's her, like a lot of people who do crimes, deflecting and internal canon blaming on someone else. You don't blame that fire she did on her own. She can blame whoever she wants, She's just convincing herself, lying to herself.
Oh,
She
speaking
had
of the
no
fire,
choice.
did you notice how she started it? What did she use to
It's like
start the
a
fire?
bong or something.
No, it was
It's like a
Osha's,
class
it was,
two for two.
but she used Osha's artwork, her drawing book, right, that she kept hiding.
Oh
And
yeah,
Osha was drawing in her drawing in the drawing book. She had the Jedi symbol.
yeah,
So Osha must have been having visions about that because how would she know about that symbol? She kept drawing it in her, and she
yeah.
didn't
It
want me to see it.
was interesting. You rarely ever see paper in Star Wars. The only other time
Mhm.
was like the sequel trilogy, but you rarely see paper. So it's kind of cool to see that. Nice little notebook. It'd be kind of cool if they sold that at Disneyland. Little triangle notebook.
Well, you
But
also see paper. You also see paper in the Jedi texts, right? Their paper, those bound volumes, the sacred texts.
yeah, I'm saying in the sequel trilogy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's like the only time you see. That's the first time you saw paper, and well, 8 movies, and you finally saw paper.
yeah.
um, but finish my point on that. So I think there's going to be another point of view where the Jedi tell Osha maybe the truth of what really happened. And I don't think they went and they murdered everyone. I think maybe they did something. Two things, two options. Either did some kind of forced meditation and put all the women to sleep, all the coven to sleep, and while they're sleeping, the place burned down. So it's kind of their fault. Or maybe they did something with like the air circulation. They put some kind of sleeping medicine or something. I think they knew they weren't going to get the women, the children out without some kind of confrontation. So they needed to incapacitate them. And if they're incapacitated while there's a fire, then I would feel really bad if I did that. Then I was like, oh, now I can kind of see. Because they had to have done something
To feel guilty,
innocent, but at the same time to feel guilty. They
right?
could
Right.
not have gone in there and just slaughtered people. That's not the way of the Jedi. And I can see the
No,
Jedi
no.
thinking, let's put them all to sleep, and then we'll get the girls out. So I think something innocent that made a bigger picture kind of bad, which would make someone want to kill themselves, feel guilty of killing someone like Torben did.
Maybe. But
So
also
that's
the other thing too is remember how in the first couple of episodes when Osha explains that Bunta, when she finds Torben's dead body, and she goes, "This was Bunta," and she talks about how in a diluted form it just makes them go to sleep.
yeah. So maybe put
So
Bunta in a
maybe they
vent,
use right.
because
It
that
makes
would
them
make
go to
sense when you
sleep
walk into that room and they're all just kind of like laying there. Maybe they were all in having a conversation,
because they didn't look burned. They didn't look
and then
burnt.
they all just kind of passed out from breathing it in, or maybe they all got a drink passed around or something. Then it makes more sense to it because they were just laying there so awkward. I was like,
Right.
this isn't like you can have a catch the place on fire in a million different ways. You're not gonna have a room of a bunch of people laying there like that. That was just so
Right.
interesting way.
The other thing too
So
is remember the writer of this show, her last big show that she wrote was called Russian Doll. And the Russian Doll has a doll inside of a doll inside of a doll. So there might be
yeah,
like multiple points of views, multiple stories, all one inside the other. So
yeah. I
because
think
that was
we
very
might get a May's point of view, and then we might get the actual thing. Because that's what happens a lot of times. They have multiple points of views of what happened, and so I think we just did Osha's point of view. So then might get May's, which hopefully is going to be truncated, and not we use a whole episode on it, and then we'll get the actually what happened. Because I think something happened, but I think it was innocent intent, and then it just hit the wall.
Mhm.
It hit the fan. I mean, yeah. So,
Yeah, good
but
point, good point. Anything else, John?
no, those are my things. Pretty much. Why would Torben kill himself? What was the building, and why the Jedi wanted to control that coven?
Oh, one thing I want to bring up too is because we've read all the High Republic stuff, and I'm trying to remember. Remember in the High Republic, the whole thing with the Nile that was huge with the Nile, and they had the occlusion zone, right? And remember, the occlusion zone was then no longer part of the Republic. So I'm wondering, is this planet one of the planets inside that former occlusion zone, and they never really became part of the Republic again?
Well, we'll find out when Phase 3 is done.
Right, but I'm thinking because they're
Yeah.
wearing blue, just like the Path of the Open Hand. They were wearing blue. That was their colors. They had the
Oh,
blue
Well, the path was very against using the Force, so that'd be kind of a
Right,
weird way.
right. But they had the blue dye,
Yeah.
so it evolves. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I know they became eventually the Nile, but
Yeah.
maybe once the Nile are destroyed or subdued, or that is resolved somehow,
Yeah.
this is what came out of that. This
Maybe.
tribe.
I do want to point out something we missed last episode, which we should have talked about, was the Jedi Vector. That was so
Oh
cool.
yes, the vector.
Yeah, and I know not a lot of people are going to spot that or guess what that was, but High Republic comics readers were just like,
Yeah.
that was
Well,
a cool throwback.
it's in the books, but you actually can see it in the comics.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see one in live action, and I can't wait for them to give us a vector toy, 3.75-inch scale. All my
So, any predictions on what's going to happen the rest of the show?
I'm not gonna lie. I've read the reviews online of the people that got to see, critics got to see the first 4 episodes.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they
Okay, I
did.
didn't know that.
Critics got to see all 4, and there was a big concern with the third one, and they kept saying this was like that when they watched the third one, they wanted to walk out. Some of them said they did walk out, that this ruined Star Wars, and so I was a little bit worried, to be honest, when I first saw it. But actually, after seeing it, I don't see how this contradicts anything. They said that it goes against George Lucas, but I didn't see that at all. I just thought it's expanding the Star Wars universe and giving us more background, so I really enjoyed it. But they did say that the 4th episode is better than this third one, in their opinion, the critics, and that it's going to end on a cliffhanger. So
I do want to touch on that. People were preaching this is going to be the one that ruined Star Wars. I don't think it did at all. Some of the points that I could see they were making were like, why are the Jedi being oppressive? And I don't think they were. I think they were being careful.
Yes, I don't think even in the episode, he didn't say they were going to take them. They asked for permission.
Yeah, and they just can't train them.
And the mother said yes. So
you can't give children guns. You can't give children firearms. That's what they're saying. So and then the women, I keep saying the women, the coven would quickly say they're taking our children. They're like, no, they can come with us if they want, but we need your permission for them to do the tests and stuff like that.
Right.
And then the other point I think might have been, I think a lot of people, which I might be on the same board. The chosen one is Anakin, and he was made by the Force. So I think I can get a little on board. I don't know if we should be making other people by the Force. So that's why it might not be the Force. That's why they didn't explain it. So it could be maybe the Force had something to do with it, but isn't just maybe just a true immaculate conception with the Force. So,
the thing about virgins in the Force, remember they said that when Qui-Gon mentions that he's a virgin in the Force, and then it's Qui-Gon and Mace Windu and Yoda, and they're saying a virgin's in the Force. So the prophecy says it's this. Do you believe that this is the one? So that means that just because there is a virgins in the Force doesn't mean that that's the only one. There might be others. And just to remind you, even on our planet, we do have, it's called parthenogenesis. So when animal species, they're all females, they can reproduce asexually by creating clones of themselves to reproduce. And those are called, it's called parthenogenesis, and it is a virgin's birth. And it happens all the time. Some fish do it all the time. There's insects that can do it. All kinds of animals can do it. And there's even fish that can change gender. They can transform from a female to a male if there are no males around. And then that male will then be able to procreate with the remaining females. So the fact that this is a virgins and Anakin was a virgins doesn't necessarily mean that there's only one virgins. And even in our churches, Jesus is not the only virginal birth. There are others. It's the same.
I don't think when he says a virgins in the Force, I don't think he's saying that he was born by the Force. I think when I hear the virgins of the Force, I hear what's the word? An anomaly of the Force. I think that's what he's saying, and so they just assume to them anything. There's probably very, very little anomalies in the Force because the Force is the Force. For something to be outside the Force like that is a pretty big deal for them. So I don't think he was saying Oh yeah, we have by saying that he said he was born with virgin birth. I don't because he doesn't. She might not be a virgin.
No, but
never said that.
According to canon, he had no father. That's what she
Yeah,
said.
yeah. But I'm taking out the virgin part of it. So just
Well, it's called a virgins, but
yeah.
these girls also had no father either.
Well,
There
we
was
don't
no
know
father.
that. We
No,
don't
yes,
know any of that.
they have no father because Anastasia said that she created them.
We don't know how she created them though. So let's say
It's,
we don't know that yet.
it's some kind of nefarious way though. It's something to do
Yeah,
with the force, I believe.
I think so too. But that's what I'm saying. I might not be on board if it was exactly the same way. If she just did enough force focusing on the other mother and making her pregnant.
So
Especially,
remember what Sheev tells Anakin when they're at that the playhouse? He says that his master even knew how to create life through the force. So he would have had to have learned that from somewhere. What if it was passed down from other generations of people that know that have that knowledge and can pass it down? So maybe Mother Anastasia discovered it, and maybe she's going to pass it on to Plagueis. Maybe Plagueis will be Anastasia's.
I think the Jedi prophecy was if you're born like that, you are the chosen one.
No.
I think that's
No. I think
first thing.
The
The first thing he
is,
says, though, are you talking about the prophecy? First thing, kind of virgins.
right,
Talking
but
about
John, listen. John,
that's
listen.
right. I
John,
think if there was multiple ones, it would.
John,
This,
listen,
this
John,
counts the prophecy.
listen, John,
That,
listen.
this is all right. So now I guess this is what with people are.
Prophecy
Star Wars is ruined. Star Wars is ruined.
Can I say something, John?
No.
You're not letting me speak.
You're not letting me speak. All right, go, Mike.
The prophecy said that the one would be from a virgins. It didn't say that the virgins there only be one virgins and that will be the chosen one, because he asks them, okay, so this child is a virgin, do you think he is the one? He didn't automatically say because he is a virgin that he's the one. He said, do you think that this is the one from the prophecy? So that leaves it open that there might be other virginses that could have happened throughout history, but it wasn't the one. But the prophecy said that, if there's a prophecy that says, oh, you know what, the savior will be an American, that doesn't mean that every American is the savior.
Yeah, but if I said I count an American to you, like, do you think he's the one? it's just hard. No, because you wouldn't automatically say that because it is so incredibly rare. It's as soon as it's said, you think of it. So that's why.
How do you know?
Qui-Gon never said the chosen one. They said the chosen one.
In Star Wars that it's a rare occurrence. Where does it?
The fact that he brought it up. The fact that he brought it up first.
Did he say that it only happens once?
Why else would you bring that up? That's what I'm saying. If I said, "Oh, I met an American," would you immediately think, "Oh, that's the chosen one"? No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's that rare. It never happens. So the only time,
not never, it's a rare occurrence means it happens sparingly. So this is over 100 years before Anakin is born.
I don't know, man. This is rough. I don't know. If they were born the same way, just the Force, I can see how people are going to be upset about that.
Well, how did Plagueis learn to do it? If it's never happened before, how could he teach that? Because Plagueis told Sheev Palpatine. Sheev told Anakin, "Oh, Plagueis, my master, even knew how to create life through the Force." And then Anakin says, "Can you do that too?" It's like, well, no, but we can learn it together. So because Sheev Palpatine killed his master before he learned that, he had to try to figure it out with Anakin's help. But Plagueis had to have learned it from somewhere. So I think it's been passed down from one leader to another, and they have to just learn it. So I don't think it's something that could only have happened once.
I don't know.
That's my take. So
yeah, I think we're gonna have to disagree on that one. Just because Per Palpatine says it, he's gonna. I don't know if I believe him. He's trying to recruit Anakin right there. So everything he says there could be part of the pitch. So I'm not exactly believing anything he says in that moment.
It could be.
Yeah, so until we see in canon where Plagueis makes something out of nothing, That's what I'm saying. That's where it gets real iffy. Because why doesn't Palpatine make someone for him to clone to jump inside? See, that's what I'm saying. It's like I think it's kind of a one-time deal. Because I mean, that's why he spends so much time trying to come up with a clone that has a force. Why doesn't he just make another? If he can just wave his fingers, keep popping them out.
Because he killed his master before his master could teach him that skill.
But he just made one. He made Anakin pretty much. So why can't
Plagueis?
Oh, so you're saying Plagueis made
with Plagueis' help?
So you thinking he was an apprentice when he made?
I think so. I think Plagueis. I think we might see through this series the emergence of Plagueis, which would be cool because then Plagueis is the one who trained Sheev Palpatine. That's what I think.
Could be. But yeah, something that's what I'm saying. I hope we find out more because if they leave us on a cliffhanger without knowing what happened, that's just like they're dead. So I'm like, I really hope they kind of tell us what happens. If they don't tell us, it's going to be a little iffy.
Well, so far I'm enjoying the series, and I'm not disappointed. I like it. It's entertaining. It feels like Star Wars to me.
It does. I'm not. A lot of people are like really hating on it. I'm not at all. It is and I'm not gonna hate it even if they were made that way. It's gonna be one of those like really. I kind of wish they didn't. Maybe I'll give my own hand cat and they made it a different way. But I mean, yeah. But I mean, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm glad we got to see some more Indara. I want to actually see some more. I'm a little nervous we're going to have too many flashbacks. So I'm like, to really flush this out, they almost have to have a lot. I mean, they only have 4 episodes left. 3?
Yeah, 4. There's 8 total, so we have 1 more, and we're at the midpoint. Now, one thing I do want to bring up.
Episodes, okay.
Notice how Indara had 1 little dot in this flashback next to her eye? And then when she got killed, she had 2 little black dots. So I wonder if that black dot means something.
Yeah. Every coven she kills, she gets a dot.
Maybe.
Her time in Jedi prison, she gets a teardrop tattoo.
Maybe. You never know.
But yeah. All right. Be sure you're following us on YouTube at Virtual Cantina Network, on Instagram at virtual.cantina network, on X at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at virtual.cantina network, and on Hive at Virtual Cantina, and on TikTok at Virtual Cantina. And please subscribe to the Star Wars Mothership, which is Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025. Most of us will be there next year. Great place to hang out with a bunch of Star Wars people. You can learn all kinds of information. We do our after shows every week, and we also do a comic book review every other Sunday, first and third Sundays. And special thanks to Star Wars, the comic book club, kind of small.
And Star Wars book nerds. Yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah. And we miss Bryce. Hopefully he comes back soon. He's been dealing with stuff right now, but hopefully he'll be back soon. Please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And please comment. Decide who's right. I know me and Mike always like to pick different sides. I think we just like to be devil's advocate just to get under each other's skin.
Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think.
And I still think Mike wasn't letting me talk earlier. Not like I wasn't letting Mike talk.
Let us know if I was not letting John talk or he was not letting me talk.
Yeah. So hope you're enjoying Acolyte. I know we are, and we will see you next week.
May the force be with you.